You know that person everyone dismisses as wasting their potential. The one with brilliant ideas but never seems to follow through. The dreamer who can't stick to a schedule, big visions, zero discipline. Here's what nobody tells you. That person might be operating on a level of consciousness most people will never access. Carl Jung spent decades studying this exact type of individual. What he discovered will challenge everything you believe about success, productivity, and human potential. By the end of this exploration, you'll understand why this seemingly lazy person terrifies the system more than any workaholic ever could. Picture a university library on a Wednesday afternoon. At one desk sits Olena, 3 textbooks open, highlighters in 4 colors, laptop displaying a detailed study schedule. She's been there since 8 in the morning. Classic overachiever. 2 tables away, there's Danilo. He showed up 20 minutes ago. Phone in one hand, notebook untouched. He's staring at the ceiling. Who would you bet on to revolutionize educational technology? Hold that answer, because what I'm about to reveal will demolish your assumptions about how genius actually works. Olena is memorizing frameworks created by other people. Danilo is seeing connections between neuroscience, ancient philosophy, and modern gaming theory that could transform how humans learn. Olena is optimizing her productivity system. Danilo is solving problems that don't exist yet in any textbook. So why does everyone assume Olena will succeed and Danilo will fail? Here's the truth that makes people uncomfortable. You judge Danilo because he threatens the entire narrative you've built your life around. Carl Jung dedicated his existence to understanding people like Danilo. His conclusion was radical. Society doesn't actually fear lazy people. We fear the lazy, ambitious individual because they prove that everything we've been taught about achievement is fundamentally backwards. But here's what Jung discovered that changes the entire game. The lazy, ambitious person isn't lazy at all. They're accessing a completely different operating system. While everyone else is running in predetermined loops, this person is playing a game with entirely different rules. Rules that actually align with how the human mind was designed to function. Think about the last time you had a genuine breakthrough idea, not something you forced through discipline, not something you extracted through grinding, a real insight that seemed to arrive from nowhere. It probably didn't happen during your most productive hour. It happened in the shower, during a walk, right before sleep. In that moment when you finally stop trying so hard, that's not coincidence. That's your brain finally being allowed to do what it does best. Jung wrote something that most people read but few truly understand. The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct acting from inner necessity. Read that again. Play instinct, not discipline, not hustle, not optimization. The mind that changes the world is the mind that plays with ideas it loves. The lazy, ambitious person understands this at a level most people never reach. While you're forcing yourself through another productivity framework, they're letting their unconscious mind make connections you can't even perceive. This terrifies us. If ambition doesn't require constant visible action, if brilliance doesn't demand 5 a.m. wake-ups, if success doesn't need the performance of being busy, then what does that say about the exhausting performance you've been running your entire life? What does it say about all the sacrifices you've made to prove your worth through motion? The lazy, ambitious person is living proof that there might be another way. And that possibility is more threatening to the system than any rebellion. If you've ever felt misunderstood, underestimated, or judged for not fitting the productivity mold, this video is speaking directly to you. What you're about to learn will give you permission to trust something you've always known but were taught to suppress. Hit subscribe because we're about to dismantle the biggest lie modern culture tells about human potential. There's a specific feeling you get around the lazy, ambitious person, an irritation you can't quite name. Jung had a precise term for what you're experiencing. Once you understand it, you'll never see your own reactions the same way again. This isn't about them. This has always been about you. Quick question. When did you last do something purely because it brought you joy? Not because it advanced your career, not because it would impress anyone, not because it fit into your goals, just because some part of you wanted to experience it. If you're struggling to remember, you've just identified the exact problem Jung spent his life trying to solve. Our obsession with constant productivity isn't about accomplishment. It's about avoiding something much darker. Jung called this the shadow, the parts of ourselves we've learned to exile because they don't fit the acceptable narrative. In modern culture, the deepest shadow is the terror of being perceived as lazy, unproductive, or lacking ambition. We've internalized a voice that screams at us whenever we stop moving. That voice isn't wisdom, it's trauma pretending to be motivation. The lazy, ambitious person doesn't hear that voice anymore. They've done something most people consider impossible. They've made peace with their shadow. Think about your last day off. Did you actually rest? Or did you feel guilty, anxious, like you should be accomplishing something tangible? Did you find yourself scrolling through social media, comparing your downtime to other people's highlight reels? Did you end the day feeling worse than when you started? The lazy, ambitious person doesn't experience that cycle. They can sit with themselves without the constant need to prove their existence through output. And that capacity, that simple ability to be without performing, gives them access to something extraordinary. Jung discovered that everything which irritates us about others can lead us to understanding ourselves. So what actually irritates you about the lazy, ambitious person? Is it that they're not following the rules you've imprisoned yourself with? Is it that they're not sacrificing their present moment for some hypothetical future? Is it that they're treating life as an experience to inhabit rather than a problem to solve through better systems? Your irritation is information. It's showing you exactly where you've abandoned yourself. But here's where this gets deeper than simple psychology. Your conscious mind, the part that makes plans and sets goals and tries to force outcomes, is actually the least creative part of you. Everything you've been taught about how innovation works is backwards. The breakthroughs that change industries don't come from grinding harder. They emerge from a completely different source. Jung wrote that the unconscious mind contains wisdom that the conscious mind cannot access through effort alone. Your unconscious is processing information at levels you can't imagine. It's making connections between concepts that seem unrelated. It's solving problems you haven't even consciously recognized yet. But it can't do this work while your conscious mind is in control. Forcing, pushing, optimizing. It needs space. It needs what looks like doing nothing. Einstein didn't discover relativity through disciplined study hours. The insight came during a daydream about riding a beam of light. Tesla didn't invent alternating current through systematic research. He saw the complete design during an evening walk through a park, reciting poetry. Jung himself experienced his most profound psychological breakthroughs during what his colleagues called his wasted years. Years when he appeared to be doing nothing productive. Years when he was actually accessing depths of understanding that would reshape how humanity comprehends the psyche. So what's actually happening in the lazy, ambitious person's mind while you think they're scrolling mindlessly? They're not being unproductive. They're doing something most people never learn to do. They're allowing their unconscious to present its insights. While you're forcing yourself through another supposed productivity hack, their mind is weaving together ideas from philosophy, technology, art, and lived experience into patterns you can't perceive because you're too busy performing busyness. Remember Danilo from the library. While Elena was highlighting textbooks written by others, Danilo's unconscious was connecting Socratic method, neural plasticity research, and pattern recognition from chess to design an entirely new approach to teaching critical thinking. Where did this idea come from? It emerged from what Jung called active imagination, the state when your conscious mind steps back and allows your unconscious to speak. Here's the part that breaks the productivity system. This process cannot be scheduled. It cannot be optimized. It cannot be turned into a framework. It happens on its own timeline. It requires what looks exactly like laziness to everyone watching from outside. And that's precisely why society fears the lazy, ambitious person. They've tapped into something that can't be controlled, can't be managed, can't be sold as a course, and can't be used to make you feel inadequate enough to buy the next productivity solution. Jung believed the most terrifying thing a human can do is accept themselves completely. The lazy, ambitious person has accepted something that feels like heresy in modern culture. They've accepted that their mind works differently, that their rhythm doesn't match the imposed schedule. that their creative process looks like nothing from the outside. And this acceptance gives them access to a well of insight that all the discipline and optimization in the world cannot provide. But this acceptance also makes them a threat, not to other individuals, to something much larger and more invested in your compliance. The lazy, ambitious person threatens the entire structure that profits from your anxiety. Think about it. If people discovered they could have ambition without anxiety, dreams without desperation, ideas without immediately monetizing them, what would happen to the entire industry built on selling you solutions to problems that were created to control you? The lazy, ambitious person is walking proof that another way exists. A way that doesn't require constant performance. A way that doesn't demand you sacrifice your mental health for productivity, theatre. A way that actually aligns with how human consciousness naturally operates. And every moment they exist in their truth, they're showing everyone around them that the prison is unlocked. You can leave anytime you choose. That's what makes them truly dangerous. Now we arrive at the real reason society fears the lazy, ambitious person. This goes far beyond individual productivity. This is about power. This is about control. This is about a system that requires your compliance to function. Jung wrote that the individual has always had to struggle to not be overwhelmed by the tribe. But the lazy, ambitious person isn't struggling against the tribe anymore. They've done something far more radical. They've simply stopped participating in the performance. And that non-participation is more threatening to established power than any direct rebellion could ever be. Let's trace how this system actually works. You spend 16 years in educational institutions designed to teach one primary skill: following instructions. You learn to sit still when told, speak when permitted, think inside approved boundaries, measure your worth through grades assigned by authority figures. Then you enter a workforce where you trade hours of your finite life for money, not based on the value you create, based on how many hours you're willing to perform presence. You buy objects to signal status to people you don't actually like. You optimize your existence to be more useful to structures that see you as replaceable. And you call this success. The lazy, ambitious person looks at this entire architecture and asks one simple question: why? And nobody has an answer that survives scrutiny. This is what makes them dangerous. They have ambition without accepting the anxiety that supposedly must accompany it. They have dreams without the desperation to prove themselves. They have ideas without the compulsion to immediately convert them into profit. This makes them fundamentally unpredictable. And unpredictable humans cannot be controlled through the usual mechanisms of fear and scarcity. But here's the deeper terror that keeps the system awake. What if the lazy, ambitious person is actually correct? What if ambition without anxiety is more effective than ambition driven by fear? What if dreams pursued from inner peace manifest more powerfully than dreams chased from panic? If that's true, then millions of people have been suffering unnecessarily. They've been destroying their health, abandoning their relationships, sacrificing their present moment, all for a system that was never designed to serve them. The lazy, ambitious person is living proof that you don't have to participate in your own exploitation. Now let me show you the historical pattern that confirms this. Carl Jung himself was the perfect example of what happens when society labels someone as brilliant but impractical. His academic colleagues thought he was squandering his gifts. The psychiatric establishment called him too mystical, too unfocused. From 1913 to 1919, Jung withdrew from public life. 6 years when he appeared to be doing absolutely nothing productive. He explored his own unconscious through methods that looked like madness to observers. He recorded dreams and visions in journals nobody would read for decades. He developed ideas with no immediate practical application. Sound familiar? That's exactly what people say about the lazy, ambitious person today. Wasting potential, too much time in their own head, needs to be more practical. But here's what Jung's critics didn't understand. He had accepted something terrifying. His contribution would come from inner exploration, not external achievement. His timeline would not match institutional expectations. His process would look like nothing to people operating from conventional consciousness. And from those 6 years of apparent waste, came the concepts that revolutionized how we understand human nature: the collective unconscious, psychological types, the shadow, archetypes, synchronicity. Every one of these ideas emerged from what looked like laziness, but was actually profound unconscious processing. Jung didn't publish his most important work until he was in his 60s, decades after his productive colleagues had peaked and faded. His ideas seemed impractical for years. Then suddenly the world caught up. Everything he'd been quietly developing became relevant. This is the pattern throughout history. The Ukrainian composer Mykola Leontovich spent years appearing to do very little, teaching in small villages, while his contemporaries pursued grand careers in major cities. Then from that quiet space came Carol of the Bells, a composition that would touch hundreds of millions of people across a century. The period everyone called wasted turned out to be essential incubation. The mathematician Grigori Perelman solved the Poincare conjecture, one of mathematics' most challenging problems, then refused the $1 million prize and disappeared from public view. He didn't fit the pattern of how genius is supposed to behave. He didn't perform productivity. He didn't monetize his brilliance. He simply solved the problem because it interested him, then returned to living on his own terms. These aren't exceptions. This is the actual pattern of how deep innovation works. It requires periods that look exactly like laziness to everyone operating from conventional timelines. The lazy, ambitious person today is following this same trajectory. They're not trying to force their vision through traditional methods because they intuitively understand that traditional methods won't work for what they're creating. They're waiting for something, the right moment, the right convergence of insight and circumstance, the right maturation of ideas that can't be rushed. And that waiting, that patience, that trust in their own process looks like failure to everyone who measures worth through constant visible motion. But Jung knew something that our culture is still learning. The lazy, ambitious person isn't broken. They're not failing. They're not behind schedule. They're operating on a timeline that actually aligns with how consciousness evolves and how genuine innovation emerges. They're ahead of a curve that most people can't even see yet. The question isn't whether the lazy, ambitious person will eventually prove everyone wrong. History has already answered that question repeatedly. The question is whether you have the courage to recognize this pattern while it's happening, whether you can see genius in the making instead of only recognizing it in retrospect, whether you can trust a process that doesn't fit the narrative you've been sold about how success must look. So here's the practical question. How do you actually live as a lazy, ambitious person in a world designed to punish anyone who doesn't perform constant productivity? Jung believed that accepting yourself completely is the most terrifying thing a human can do. But once you've accepted your nature, you need a strategy for navigating a system built on opposite principles. First strategy: stop apologizing for your rhythm. Your energy patterns aren't random chaos. They're information about how your specific consciousness operates. When you feel the pull towards stillness, that's not weakness calling. That's your unconscious requesting processing time. The same way your body needs sleep to consolidate memories and repair cells, your mind needs apparent inactivity to integrate insights and form connections. Protect that time. Defend it against people who want to fill every moment with measurable activity. The world will always demand more from you. Your job is to know when to say no. Second strategy: learn to distinguish between rest and avoidance. The lazy, ambitious person needs both, but they feel entirely different in your body. Rest feels peaceful, necessary, like water flowing into dry ground. Ideas emerge during real rest. Clarity arrives. You finish a period of rest feeling more yourself than when you started. Avoidance feels anxious, guilty, like running from something that's chasing you. Nothing emerges during avoidance except more anxiety. You end avoidance feeling depleted and further from your truth. Learn to sense this difference. Rest is essential. Avoidance is just fear wearing a mask. Third strategy: develop what Jung called active patience. This isn't passive waiting. This is conscious preparation for when your moment arrives. While your unconscious processes, your conscious mind can gather resources, build skills, create conditions, read widely across unrelated fields. Have conversations with people outside your usual circle. Collect experiences that seem irrelevant. You're not wasting time. You're composing the raw materials. Your unconscious will later weave into patterns nobody else can see. When inspiration strikes, you'll have what you need to act on it. Fourth strategy, and this is the most important one, stop measuring yourself by other people's timelines. Society wants everything yesterday. The productivity industry promises transformation in 90 days. Social media celebrates overnight success while hiding the 10 years of preparation that preceded it. None of that has anything to do with how your journey actually unfolds. Your ambitions might take years to manifest. Your ideas might need a decade to mature. Your moment might not arrive until you're 40 or 50 or 60. And that's not failure. That's mastery. Think about what this actually means. Every lazy, ambitious person in history was told they were wasting their potential until suddenly they weren't. Jung didn't publish his most revolutionary ideas until his 60s. His supposedly wasted years turned out to be essential preparation. Leon Tovich's quiet decades in villages gave him the depth to create something that transcended his era. The pattern repeats endlessly. The person everyone dismissed as lazy suddenly emerges with something that changes everything. Because while everyone else was optimizing their efficiency, they were optimizing their authenticity. While others followed borrowed systems, they developed original understanding. While others performed productivity, they became someone worth being productive about. Here's what nobody tells you about being the lazy, ambitious person. Your moment will come, but it won't announce itself with fanfare. It won't fit the hero's journey narrative movies taught you to expect. Instead, it will feel quiet, inevitable, like something that was always meant to happen. Circumstances will align. Timing will feel right. The idea that's been incubating will suddenly have a clear path to manifestation. And when that moment arrives, all the years of apparent laziness will reveal themselves as necessary preparation. Every day you spent doing nothing was actually your mind solving problems others couldn't perceive. Every period of rest was your unconscious making connections that conscious effort would have missed. Every time you trusted your rhythm instead of forcing yourself into someone else's schedule, you were building capacity that will matter when your moment comes. Jung was right about something else too. Your vision becomes clear only when you look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. You've been looking inside while everyone else looks outside for validation. You've been awakening while they've been dreaming of conventional success. And that awakening gives you something productivity culture cannot provide. The ability to dream without anxiety, to have ambition without desperation, to create without forcing. The lazy, ambitious person isn't society's problem. They're society's possibility. They prove that maybe the issue isn't lazy people who need motivation. Maybe the issue is a system that pathologizes natural human rhythms and tries to force everyone into the same productive mold. You're not broken. You're not lazy. You're not failing at life. You're operating from a different part of human potential than society is equipped to recognize. The question isn't whether you'll achieve your ambitions. The question is whether you'll trust your process long enough to let them emerge. Because sometimes the most ambitious thing you can do is trust what you see when you look into your own heart, even when the rest of the world can't see it yet. If this shifted how you see yourself, or if you recognize the lazy, ambitious person in your own life, tell me in the comments. What's the biggest dream you've been afraid to pursue because it doesn't fit the traditional productivity model? And if you want more content that challenges everything you think you know about success, subscribe, because we're just beginning to explore ideas that the system doesn't want you to hear